Hello everyone, thank you all for joining me. Today is July 25th, Friday, and we'll be speaking about Mars in Scorpio in its rulership now that it's moved, and it will happen that when it moves out of its sign would be around September 16th or 17th. And what does this sign encompass? What is the significator, essence, and what does it mean now to astrologers and to the folks, and what does it invoke? What is the spirit? What is its call mainly? So I'm gonna call upon the spirit of the Scorpions and let's continue. So Scorpions, it's this Scorpio, we know directly already that Scorpio, it's about sex, and the key words are sex, death, and rebirth, and their nature to penetrate deep and calmly stay there on their fixed sign, and their motives are to explore the deep nature and to involve with a being in that regard in a very powerful and a potent expression that defines truth and courage and powerful indeed. And Scorpion has a stinger, and its element is water, and Mars is a fiery planet of Mars. And how are we gonna mix this up in this video? Well, let's show you a little bit of the glyphs and the hieroglyphics, and in history, we'll go down in history. Mars and Scorpio both have the stinger of the penetrating deep into matter and then rising above. And then we've got Mars, which is a phallic, going around in the usual sense in nature. What must come up, what goes up must come down. And then you've got the phallic symbol, that's masculine, and you directly see the influence on both male and female here and here. So it deals about intercourse, and the intercourse within the mind, and the intercourse of having power and self-righteousness and the will to assert yourself and rise above some particular disadvantage, whether that could be serious or not. But for a Scorpio, it means a lot. Scorpios have this deep, dark secret, of course. They're cold, but not in that sense. It's in a psychological nature, but Mars and Scorpio. Let's move along, shall we? Scorpio is ruling the water, and its glyph is closely the same as a Virgo, but with this glyph for Scorpios particularly are not into that chatty self. They're more of just penetrating deep and getting into deep subjects, just discovering these esoteric means of penetrating. And then you've got Virgo, which is about the womb, and it's ruled by Mercury, and this sign is just thinking and analyzing. And well, you've got Mars and Scorpio, which is more of just going and wait and attack. So it attacks. Um, there's nothing more to it. So how we correlate these energies, it's in a very it needs to rise up in this sense. So it needs to always keep its defense. For a Scorpio, it works better in having a defense than just doing the same old thing. It likes to do unconventional things. Like some days they're good, they're good at being different, and they have a deep sense of having security. And in modern terms, they would majorly excel in having the the to catch up higher, to reach into higher, having the bird's eye view of their stock and their fruits and their creativity. And this is how I would put it. And then you've got Mars. Mars is going into battle, having your defenses ready and waiting, and surround its prey, and then it attacks. That's exactly how a scorpion does. It waits patiently, months and months, until it's ready, and it goes for the sting. And you'll take it into another level. They're into a water sign. It's ruled during autumnal seasons, and then it's water. And when water seeps down, and when it's cold, and you got the Mars, you got the fire in the opposite direction. There's a deep resonance. There's this transfiguration, this transmutation. There's this development, and you've got evolution. You've got this very strange attraction on these two elements that positions itself to have a remarkable evolutionary jump and in your psyche, in your development. And they're all about getting you to a place of higher spirit, and it works in modern terms still. You want to have your defenses, you want to have your people. They do enjoy the spotlight, they do indeed, but sometimes it's too much for a Scorpio to be ahead of everyone. Sometimes they rather work behind the scenes and have their own work. There, um, they're they are good instigators. They are good at penetrating deep into personal ambitions. And then in Egypt, the ancient astrologers in Egypt once described the scorpion as an eagle. And the scorpions, they have this face, they have a beak, and that could be their higher spirit. They're eagles. And so going back into Egypt, in those times they had this spirit of the eagle, and they named it the phoenix rising out of the ashes. And I was going into a story, but then I forgot. Yes, in the ancient land of Kemet in Egypt, they called it chemia, and then the term changed. The root of the word of alchemy that is used right now is chemistry, alchemia. And where the land of the Nile, in its fertile ground, there were a lot of beetles and scarabs and good fruits. They called it the fertile land of the Nile Delta, where scarabs and the river Nile would always rise up in that season, in the autumnal season. And they would give birth, and um, later on its years, they decided it's a process of transmutation, of receiving death, going through death, and rising in over the water, up. So those are terms that are alchemical, and alchemy is transmuting base metals into gold. And later, in biblical terms, they changed it. Ezekiel, some verse in the Bible has the eagle, the 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 matter cross, the cross matter, the four fixed signs in the astrological biblical text. It's called the eagle. So you have this now. Before you were a scorpion, and now you turn into an eagle. You've cleansed your spirit. You realize that the excess of matter was holding you down, and then you realize that burning off your old skin, the old recesses of your own mind, you free your spirit. You give your spirit out, and what do you have? You have green pastures. You have green all around. After going to a death process, you receive that, of course. And what do you get? You get your own personality back. You have your own effort. You have your own self-respect, and you have dignity crossed in matter. So it's very technical. It's beautiful, and it's what the process of Egypt came in these process, in the circular motion of the zodiac of Mars. And so we go through these cycles again, and then Mars, again, it's a fiery planet, going into the matter, the death of the earth, and destroying its counterpart and receiving its new skin that used to be needed, and now it hovers, and it's covering now a new skin, which is particularly most used. And you've got these feathers. You're more flamboyant. You've got color. You've got ambition. You've turned into a bird, and that is where most of the Scorpios want to be. They want to be behind the scenes, looking back at at the background, so to speak. And you build your own self in that ego. You dress yourself in beauty. You dress yourself every time. Scorpios and the philosophy and the mysticism, it's deeply rooted in Egypt. You go back, the scarab beetle, the sun. They called the eagle the sun on its summit. The eagle when it was on top of a mount. And you've got many other things dating millennia. And what can I say? Mars, now that it's brilliantly now in its house, and it's perfect. And Mars, it's a very powerful and it signifies just death and rebirth. And the more we trust in that process, the more we act, and the more we believe, and the more we connect that essence, there'll be fire. We'll be watching that fire burn forever. You'll be that light. There will be no sorrow. And sometimes Scorpios do have to dig deep. They want to penetrate. They like to see the oneness. They like to have that spirit, that water deep seated into them, but you know, there's a transmutation every second. So cultivate that spirit, cultivate and transmute those impulses into the process of Mars going around and then pointing up, and that is the eagle rising up the ashes. And what else can I say? Mars, planet of ambition. Scorpio, planet of the sign of psychology, deeply rooted in psychology. And I'll end it right there, but it's a very pretty story. And namaste. Mars in Scorpio until September 16th. Thank you all for watching, and namaste.